My father came to know Jesus when I was very young. We started going to church, and I practically grew up there. Every Sunday without fail, we were in church. I prayed for my salvation as a young child in church. I read my Bible periodically and hardly ever understood what it meant. I remember I used to pray for protection in the morning before school because I was always picked on in class. My situation at home wasn't much better. I would have rather stayed at school and been picked on there than at home by my older brother. I felt abandoned by God, and by the time I was in 5th grade, I gave him the finger. I became very bitter and angry at him. As I turned away, I started to notice the change in my father's attitude. He was more loving and understanding toward me. He also began to develop a good relationship with other Christians. It wasn't until I was about 15 that my mother came out and told me she was going to start following Jesus as well. I was upset when she did. I felt like she had abandoned me because I wasn't following Jesus, and now we were going to be drawn apart. I was always closer to my mother. By the time I was 17, I was getting high every day. I started selling weed and a little bit of coke to make money to support my lifestyle of partying. I spent so much time high that from the age of 17 to 22, I don't have very clear memories. I was embarrassed to be who I was at 22, a pothead living at home, spending 4 years in college with only 2 years done. Even though I had a lot of friends that I hung out with, none of them really were friends. They didn't know me and I didn't know them. My daily life consisted of getting up, getting high, and avoiding my parents. My parents were the only examples I had of what it was to be a Christian. I had watched them over the years and had seen transformation that Christ had had in their lives. I began to compare myself to my father. I wanted what he had so bad. I was tired of the decisions I made. They hurt me and they hurt my family. My mom would tell me that she would wake up crying, saying that she had dreams of me being arrested or getting hurt or killed. This whole process of my life was just me learning my inadequacies without Jesus. My decisions had led me to a life I hated. It started as fun, but that's how sin is. It feels good for the moment, and then you suffer. I wanted out of my life. I started to pray to Jesus that if he were real, he would change my desires in my life. The only desires I had were to get drunk, high, and have sex. I believed that Jesus was always in control of my life ever since I prayed for my salvation when I was young. Only he let me find out for myself how much I needed him. It would be nice to say that I was totally changed overnight, but the next day I was still the same person. Over time, Jesus began to replace things in my life. The first to go were drugs, and then the need to get drunk. After these things were pulled from my life, I felt very quarantined. I spent time alone searching for something to replace and fill my time. After a while, and encouragement from my father, I got plugged in at the church with a college ministry group. Jesus began to replace core elements in my life, getting me ready for the things he had planned. He brought Kathy to me, and Kathy took me to X-Life, where I began to grow in community. I found true friends for the first time who I could trust and be real with. They keep me accountable and my eyes focused on God. Kathy and I fell in love and got married July 26, 2008. I know my call in her life is to lead her in Christ and die for her daily. In Matthew 22, 37 through 39, Jesus is asked, "What are the greatest commandments in law?" And Jesus replies, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." Kathy and I want these verses to reflect in our lives. She has been a great blessing in my life, giving me love and encouragement and accountability. The direction in my life is now changed. My name is Robert Tony. I'm a submitted follower of Christ.